Hello and welcome to the new podcast. I'm Anton Sakharov, and this is where we think different. I wanted to start this podcast because I can no longer sit and watch what's happening in our country and around the world, and wanted to cover a lot of different topics. And I hope you enjoy the show and come back, subscribe, and enjoy. Well, what we're going to talk about today is the mandatory you know what. Of course, I'm not going to name the you know what because many video filters and hosting companies take those videos down. So hopefully you guys understand what we're going to be talking about today. And we'll focus on the mandate that was pushed by the current administration that said that any private business that has 100 or more employees must have mandatory you know what in order to stay in business. And we all know that this is yet another restriction that is upon us that is now affecting the majority of the companies in the United States. Well, first I wanted to cover the recent news. The mandate was put in a few weeks ago and was awaiting the OSHA regulations that just came out. I believe the OSHA regulations is a couple hundred pages long, and it's talking about how the virus is bringing the grave danger to the employees if they don't get you know what. And of course, several states and businesses rushed to file a motion to stop this mandatory you know what. And I believe yesterday a temporary hold was put in place by one of the appeal courts while this is getting. It's going to be back and forth probably for a while, and we'll see where we'll end up in the courts themselves. But at the company level, the restriction is going to be impacting pretty much any business that has 100 more people that are working on site. When they go to an office or a factory or a store. And most likely this will play out in the court system for the next several months. But I wanted to cover the mandate itself and wanted to express my opinion that this is yet another ridiculous push by the government, an overreach that will not going to work. It's not going to work. Basically, it's completely useless. As we seen last year, when the you know what wasn't available, we were successful in bringing down the infection rate to a very low level, which means we can be successful without the you know what. And any mandates like this are basically there to push an interesting point. And I'm split here because I'm not the I see two main reasons for bringing this mandate in. One is the politicians are doing their political things. As we all know, the politicians get elected and they get paid by the tax dollars, and the politicians most likely will never confess that they're wrong. Because as soon as they confess that they're wrong, they're not going to get elected the next time around. So they're always going to be doubling down until the last moment, acting as if they know what they're doing. So most likely the mandate is about that. It's about pretending that they know what they're doing, trying to show that they're in control and they can mitigate the situation. And the only way to do that is to do something. And that mandate is to do something. It's to pretend that they can solve a pandemic problem, which we clearly know is unsolvable at this moment. For those that don't understand, this virus is here to stay. It's never going to go away. It's just like the flu. It's going to go around the globe, most likely becoming some seasonal type of a virus. But to pretend that we will be able to kill the virus off and come back to normal lives is nonsense. It's never going to happen. Just because we don't have a way to cure this virus today. From all the things that we're trying, the best cure today is once you get sick, you get through it and you have the antibodies. We know that the mandate for the you-know-what was promised to be something that will last 2 years. Then they tracked it back and they said maybe a year. Now they're saying it's good for maybe 6 months, and then you need a booster. And we can pretty much bet on that sometime in the future they'll come back and say, hey, we need this monthly. Or maybe yet they're going to add some ingredients to our butter, and this will be the next breakfast ingredient that we have to put on our toast in order to have the immunity. You never know, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But jokes aside, going back to our original point, either the politicians are doing the politician thing or there's an agenda. And I don't know if there's an agenda, but I'm a type of person that does critical thinking. And this show is about thinking different. This show is to take a look at what's happening around the world and discuss what other possibilities are out there. So feel free to email me with questions or stories that you have witnessed that I'll cover in the next shows. I'll put my email in the summary of the video because I think I want to make this interactive. I want to make sure that folks are sharing the stories around the globe, not just United States. You know, I have seen stories where whole crews of ambulance workers quit because of the mandatory, you know what? I have seen a lot of people put on notice. In fact, we've seen a lot of police departments and sheriff departments actually question the impact of what's going to happen. In fact, I just watched LA Sheriff's Office news conference where they discussed the number of sheriff deputies that will essentially quit if this mandate is put in place, and it would cut the workforce nearly half. I mean, the numbers are staggering, and you know, the most worrisome is this is fabricated. This is not natural. This is made to be because all those people worked all day long, all year long during the pandemic without the you know what, and all of a sudden they can't. And that creates this division in our country where now we're saying you're not good enough because you didn't do you know what, without any proof, without any data. The fact that we're not taking into account natural immunity proves that, because if we did, there wouldn't be a problem. The problem is if we start using natural immunity as a way to show if you should do the you know what or you shouldn't, those who did take it will find out that their immunity is down over a month's period of time, which will make the whole process obsolete. And that's why they don't want to talk about it, because, you know, we all know that if you got sick and you survived and you got the natural immunity, there's no way the artificial thing can be better than the natural. I don't care what kind of science it is. It's just impossible. Unless you're telling me you're God, which we know they're not. So going back to, hey, you got to take this because it's better than your natural immunity. Come on. That's ridiculous. How is it possible? It's like saying natural food is worse than the lab grown. Those are not the same things. You can't even compare them. So we can't claim that. We can't, you know, no matter what the science is going to say, this type of science is fake. Your natural immunity is good. That's your body fighting off an infection. If you really have this disease and you fought it off, your immunity is way better than whatever you take into your blood with a jab. So that's the biggest pushback factor is if you can't accept natural immunity, which millions of people have today, and you're making a mandatory, you know what, even if you have the antibodies, then I question the motive. And again, the motive is either they don't know what they're talking about because they're trying to push, it's another business idea. I mean, we all know politicians make money or get donations from companies, and nothing is done for the good of the people. I mean, come on. When was the last time a government did something good for the people? So there's an agenda. We can continue the discussion. I hope you guys send me some information that I'll share in there next time. But I wanted to share that the mandatory, you know what, that's coming up on January 4th is the deadline, but we had a temporary halt because of the court's decision, and there will be more court infighting, of course. But then at the end of the day, it's not going to work no matter what. Even if mandatory, you know what, stays, even if all companies make you do it, the virus is not going to go away. It's never going to go away. And it's going to be another one of those, hey, it's only for 2 weeks. Hey, let's start using masks. Hey, why don't you take this, you know what, you're good for 2 years. No, you're good for a year. No, you're good for 6 months. Now you have to take it more than every 6 months. And you can't travel unless you have it to some countries. Some countries make it so that it's mandatory to visit. In fact, US just put a new rule that's starting November 8th. Any non-citizen who's flying in has to have the you know what, and only from an approved list. And you still have to test. You have to test negative, even if you did the you know what 3 days before the flight. Now, if you're a US citizen, you can still get in the country without the you know what, but you have to test a day before, which tells me what is the point of getting the you know what if you have to test either way? You have to test no matter what. You have to wear a mask no matter what. And that just tells me that you know what doesn't really work. And what's worse is now they're pushing this on kids. They've been pushing this on kids from 12 and older. In fact, it's now a mandatory shot to be in public school in California. And now that they have approved the 5 to 11 shot, I'm pretty sure that it's going to fast follow and become mandatory in California. It is already mandatory in San Francisco. And this is where it gets me the most, because we have no idea how this is going to impact our kids. And to assume that it's all safe without, one, reviewing the actual results of the side effects that we now have the data for. There's open source side effect website that collects all the side effects and actually has a very detailed data. We can now trace back the side effects to specific vials. We have not done that. We have not reviewed that from the government point of view, of course. And number two is there's absolutely no one who will bear responsibility if something goes wrong. And that's not just about the you know what, it's about any other vaccine. Any other vaccine out there, all the companies are protected. So if you or your child has a side effect, gets sick, has side effects or dies, there's absolutely no repercussion for that company that made this thing. And that's what gets me the most is, how can you expect the public to trust that this is something that's needed when there's absolutely no repercussion for a thing that didn't work? And what's worse is it might not work, but it might also ruin your life. And I'm not anti, you know what, I'm not, in terms of all the vaccines, I'm not anti-vaccine. There's some vaccines that make sense, totally make sense to do, that some that don't. And you just have to be very, you have to be a critical thinker to understand which one is better, which one is not. Do some research and assess the risk. And with this new, my risk assessment is no way Why would my kids have absolutely no chance of getting sick or very, very low chance of getting sick? Very, very low chance, almost negligent, of side effect of the actual virus. Now take something that they'll be dependent on taking potentially every 6 months with zero information on the side effects and zero information on if it's actually going to work because the kids are already not getting sick. So this whole concept of we're from the government, we're here to help, um, doesn't work. It doesn't work because that's not how it works. That's not how the government works. And we have to put our critical thinking hat on to really consider if we should be taking this or if our kids should be taking this. And I'm worried that some parents will blindly assume that as soon as it comes from the government, it's good to go. And I hope people do their research. Well, I'll wrap up my stream tonight, but I hope to get additional comments and questions from you guys so that I can continue sharing the news across the world. Talk to you later. Thanks, everyone.